Hi, Stormy.
Hi, Daniel.
Mute, please, Daniel. We're live streaming. Thank you.
Toby, are we right to go?
Just let you know, Andy Clay's dropped out.
Yep, ready to go.
He's on.
Let's go.
Great. Okay, welcome. This is the ordinary meeting of the Council on the 27th of January 2021, held via remote technology. I now hand you over to our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Rosemary Dillon.
Good evening, councillors, staff and Blue Mountains community. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Blue Mountains City Council. This meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed. An audio file and a link to a live stream is available from the council's website. The audio recording will be available on the council's website for 6 months after the upload date. As all statements made at this meeting will be recorded, your image and voice may be recognised and other people may be aware that you've attended the meeting. Your continued attendance at the meeting after this statement is made is taken as your consent to your image and voice being webcast. All persons in attendance at this meeting, whether addressing the council or making comments that may be detected by the recording equipment, should refrain from making any defamatory comments or from releasing any personal or confidential information about another individual without the other individual's consent. The council is not responsible for the statements of any individual made during this meeting. Any defamatory statements or any statements which include personal or confidential information are the sole responsibility of the individual who makes them. The council's code of meeting practice sets standards of conduct for a council meeting. If any person in attendance at the meeting acts in a disorderly manner, or if a person makes defamatory or unacceptable comments, then the meeting may be interrupted by the Mayor or by me, the Chief Executive Officer, and appropriate action taken. This meeting must not be recorded by any party other than the council. Members of the public have been invited to provide submissions to items on the meeting agenda in advance. Any submissions received have been provided to the councillors. I now ask you to please welcome the Mayor.
Thank you, dear God. We sincerely seek your blessing on this council so that its deliberations may advance your glory and the true welfare of the people of the City of Blue Mountains. The City of Blue Mountains is located within the country of the Darug and Gundungurra peoples. The Blue Mountain City Council recognises that Darug and Gundungurra traditional owners have a continuous and deep connection to their country, and that this is of great cultural significance to Aboriginal people, both locally and in the region. For Darug and Gundungurra people, Ungara takes in everything within the physical, cultural and spiritual landscape. Landforms, waters, air, trees, rocks, plants, animals, foods, medicines, minerals, stories and special places. It includes cultural practice, kinship, knowledge, songs, stories and art, as well as spiritual beings and people, past, present and future. Blue Mountain City Council pays respect to elders past and present, while recognising the strength, capacity and resilience of past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the region. Thank you. We have no apologies for tonight. I'll just move straight to the minutes. A motion moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Hollywood, that the minutes of the meeting held on 24 November 2020 be accepted. I'll put that. All of those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. I'll so sign. Also in relation to the extraordinary meeting held on 1 December 2020, I have a motion moved Councillor Fell, seconded by Councillor Hollywood, that those minutes be accepted as a true record. I'll put that. All those in favour?
I've got a question.
Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Question, Councillor.
Yes, I didn't vote for it. I wanted this. There's a query in the minutes, the second minutes.
All right. Well, I've put that, and I'll hold the vote. What's your query?
My query is that I believe Councillor Schreiber moved an amendment that wasn't. I couldn't see in there.
You put something forward that wasn't seconded. I recall that.
I thought Councillor Schreiber had seconded it. Is that why it's not in? And it's okay. I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, you put something forward that wasn't seconded and lapsed.
Okay.
Yep. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? There being none.
Hang on. Okay. Good. I see there's a mayoral minute about an application of a grant, a blur
Yep.
Katoomba Chamber. So I'm declaring a non-pecuniary interest. I've been involved in founding and working with that group. I'm a member of the Katoomba Chamber, but it's the actual group working on that application.
So you're just declaring a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest.
But
You're
I've
going to
been
stay in the
involved
room.
with it for several years. Well, I've been involved from the beginning, yes.
We don't need that. We just need the declaration. Thank you. You'll stay in the room, I take it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr.
Yep.
Mayor, I declare a declaration of interest in the same, but I will stay in the room.
Yes, thank you. And for the same reason,
Yes.
I'll take it that you're both declaring a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. And I should probably add, it's a matter for the councillors, but councillors Hoare and McGregor lobbied me on this issue over Christmas. It's a matter for you to, if you wish to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest as well. But I don't think you need to. You don't need to. Yep, thank you. All right, I'm going to withdraw the mayoral matter of urgency in relation to sports players' fees because the CEO and I made that decision during the summer under our Christmas delegation. So that's actually done, so that's withdrawn. I've got a mayoral minute number 1 in relation to the mayoral reference group, quality of life. It's moved me and seconded the deputy mayor. The only change there is that it'll continue in operation because obviously the airport is still an issue and it's open to the current members of the committee to also consider the impacts of the highway widening on the rest of the Blue Mountains. Other than that, there's no other changes. Is there any opposition? All councillors are able to attend. There's no opposition. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. All right. All right, so I have 2 mayoral matters of urgency in relation to road safety issues at Blaxland. I plan to put them one at a time. I don't think they're contentious, so unless anyone opposes them, I don't intend to speak to them. Mayoral matter of urgency number 1 in relation to View Street, Blaxland. It's moved me and seconded Councillor Bowling. Is there any opposition to this mayoral matter of urgency? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Mayoral matter of urgency number 2 in relation to Wilson Waits, moved me and seconded Councillor Christie. Is there any opposition? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. The next mayoral matter of urgency, I need to explain that this, as you know, a number of, and I'll move it, and it's second the Deputy Mayor, a number of these items were dealt with by the CEO and I under delegation, and you were briefed on that. 2 things occurred. During the Christmas break, I was approached by Councillors Hoare and McGregor, as well as Dr. Redshaw, about bringing forward a mayoral minute in relation to this matter, seeking state funding. And then today, 2 of our directors, Mr. Parsons and Mr. Langavad, approached the CEO and I and put forward this proposal. Because the Christmas delegation ended at midnight, it was therefore appropriate for the matter to be brought to the council because the CEO and I no longer had the delegation to deal with the matter. So I want to thank Directors Parsons and Langavad. I want to thank the CEO for working with them to pull this together so quickly. I acknowledge the meeting I had with Councillors McGregor, Hoare and Dr. Redshaw over the summer. I also acknowledge the work of Councillors Brown and Schreiber with the Chamber of Commerce over a period of time. To me, this is a worthy project. I don't suspect there's any opposition, but I'll wait and see if there is. And if there's no opposition, I think I'll put it. Councillor Brown.
I'd like to speak, yes.
All right.
I have a few questions. I've been very involved with this application and the work on it. I mean, as I said,
Are you
it's
speaking or is this a question?
Well, it's the question because
Okay.
this was put in with a brief, with a summary, and the staff have been working with the community on this for at least 6 months.
Can I get you to go to your question?
The question is, and there is now a request for the application. So the general manager still has a delegation. She's got that. She can.
Can you go to your question, please?
So she has asked for the application to be sent. I understand she wants to see the application.
What's the question, Councillor Brown?
Well, why is the process now going through the councillors? They've had no briefings on this. They've had nothing on it. I'm just curious. Why are we doing this when we didn't do it with any of the others?
Well, I would have thought it's a good thing to do. CEO.
It is a good thing, but I'm asking why the CEO isn't just approving it.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. You've asked your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Because of the amount of money involved and just from a governance point of view, it was important that all our proposed applications under the Blur funding program should have some sort of council endorsement. In addition, there were some projects that have an impact on council that we've been working or partnering with others. They also need council endorsement. And in the case of the Treeline Lurline, their proposal is that if they get the money, they'd hand it over to council and we'd have to project manage. So there's a significant impact on the council. The project only came to my attention in the last week, so I wasn't myself well briefed on it. I think there's been action on it, but for whatever reason, I had not been briefed on it, and so I was very keen to understand more what the actual project was, because I don't think we can support a project if we didn't know what it was, especially if it was going to be handed over to us to implement. That said,
I should add to, sorry, CEO, I should add to the deadlines tomorrow.
And the deadline's tomorrow, so it's time critical. That said, staff in two of the directorates, particularly Gary Parsons' directorate and in to a lesser degree in Will Langewitz's directorate, had been liaising and working in with the Treeline Lurline group. And I think the council's position was we knew it was a multi-million-dollar project and it would take a long time and council didn't have the capacity or resources. And for us, it was about implementing the master planning for Katoomba as a priority first in terms of our focus of activity. So that said, this opportunity has arisen. So we're not, of course, we're supportive of it, but we've asked them in their application just to make sure they're aligning with the master plan and that they're building in proper design and feasibility at the front end, and council's support is contingent on that. And,
thanks, CEO.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good. No, that's good. I'll speak to it now.
Thank you. We'll time the councillor.
I think it's, as I said, we have the council has actually approved that we approved working with the Katoomba Chamber and the other groups, the National Trust branch, the Blue Mountains Association of Heritage, Cultural and Heritage Associations, Upper Mountains Alliance of Arborists, Blue Mountains Tourism, huge number of individuals, businesses. We've worked out something like $187,000 worth of pro bono work on this application. It's a huge amount of technical work being done that's done work that once the council would have had to see through. But I'll also acknowledge that because of the motion I put up, I think August 2019, we had for all these councillors here, we'd all agreed we supported this project and that we would support the work of these community groups for it. It's fantastic. It's to completely refurbish Lurline Street, which since 1995, there have been reports, feasibility studies, kind of management plans, all saying that there was an urgent need to refurbish the street and to return the avenue of trees that were put there in 1905 and taken down about 1960 by the council, both put up and then taken down. But the council's got a big backlog of studies and reports on this and commitments to doing it. So in 2009, they committed to including it for getting big funding in their 10-year strategy. And of course, that 10-year strategy would have finished in 2019. But the community's been on this for 2 years. And as I said, there's a lot of professionals, including some of the people who've done paid work on it before in the past, and they're now giving their time free to see it happen. And it will make it'll make a link between Echo Point and the town centre. The idea is to draw people not just to going to Echo Point, but to be walking and cycling down a gorgeous boulevard with seats and water fountains and water sense of urban design. The power line, the big cost is the power lines going underground, and the work's been done to verify that that can be done, because they're underground in the town centre and they're underground at Echo Point. This will put them underground all the way so that the trees can grow without being butchered. There'll be garden beds, and there's still capacity. Obviously, if there was going to be a tram, we were talking about that earlier with some of the staff, trams could go down, but the idea would be a walking and cycling link that takes you down to the Grand Cliff Walk, the Greater Blue Mountains Trail, that also brings people up from Echo Point, and people don't just go to Echo Point. So the argument for it is actually resilience, economic resilience, because it's about developing our built and cultural heritage, so that rather than just going to Echo Point, people are now we've got a connection. We've got this link between Echo Point and the town centre, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. It's for the people who live on the street. We've now got 3 affordable housing apartment blocks there. All those people will have a wonderful facility. So the total cost is around 25 million. So it won't completely do it, but the 16.8 would go a long way. We get the power underground, get all the designs done, and it would be it would just transform Lurline Street, which is actually right now the stormwater problems with that are enormous, because it's been resealed so many times that the camber of the road is higher than the size.
1 minute.
So as I said, what it will do is it will actually do work that council needs to do anyway, but it's a whole of precinct to do it all at once, so that when the trees go in, the whole road's been taken up, so you've got massive trenches, so that the planting of the trees is not like just putting them in a hole anymore. You can create a proper environment for them underground. So it's an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity that this scale of funding came up, and I just want to thank everyone. It's not even in yet, it'll be in by 2 o'clock tomorrow. It's been a huge effort and a huge contribution by this community to do this application. So yes, total support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mute. Thanks, Councillor Brown. I should have asked the seconder if he wished to speak. I take it he doesn't. Councillor
No,
Van der
thanks,
Klee, no,
Mr.
thank you. Any further speakers? There being nothing further, I'll put the matter. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. And Councillor Schreiber, you might go onto mute as well. Thank you. All right. Well, we have no items on which the public have written to us. So what we'll do is we'll move to pulling out items, and I'll go around the table. Councillor Fell, did you have any you wish to pull out?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Items 12.
Bear with me. Item 12, yep.
15.
Yes.
17.
Thank you, Councillor Fell.
And 23.
And 23?
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Schreiber. You're on mute, Councillor Schreiber.
No, thank you.
Thank you. You can mute again now. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Van der Klee. Councillor Schreiber's on mute. Councillor Van der Klee, do you have anything you wish to pull out?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Fell. You already dealt with you. Sorry. Councillor McGregor. No. Councillor Bowling.
No, thanks.
No. Councillor Miles.
No.
No. Councillor Hollywood.
They're already out.
Thank you. Councillor Hua.
I'm content.
You're content. Excellent. Councillor Fernanda.
Content.
Thank you. You might go on mute, Councillor Fernanda. Did I miss any councillors? You're
That's
all
me.
moving on the screen there.
Yes.
Councillor Brown, sorry. Did you have any? You wish to pull out?
23, but I think that Councillor Fell's already brought it out. Is that
Yes,
right?
it's out. Yep. So the items that have been pulled out.
You missed me.
Who did I miss? Councillor Christie. Any you want to pull out?
No, I just wanted to call out that you missed me.
Okay, thank you. I do miss you. I do miss you, Councillor Christie, can I tell you. Items 12, 15 and 23 have been pulled out. Were there any other items?
Mr. Mayor, you missed 17.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sorry, I'll read those again. You're right, I've marked it. Items 12, 15, 17 and 23 are pulled out. There are no others? No. Councillor Brown, if you could go on mute. All right, so I'm going to take the rest. So items 2, mark your business papers. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 and 24. Can you please note that in passing this, that means you're also passing the contents of the confidential item. That is moved by Councillor Vanderklay, seconded by Councillor Hollywood. I'll put those in globo. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously, which brings me to item number 12, the appointment of members to the Blue Mountains Cultural Centre Advisory Committee. Councillor Fell, you pulled this out. Do you wish to move something? You'll need to go off mute.
Sorry, I thought I was. I'd like to move the motion as printed, and in doing so, just express many thanks for the work done by
Before you do that, it's seconded Councillor McGregor. Councillor Fell has the call.
Sorry, yeah. I'd just like us to acknowledge the contribution made by Tony Bond and by Dr. Leo Robber as ex-members of that committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fell. That's recorded for the public record. Does the seconder wish to speak? No. Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 15, Councillor Fell, do you wish to move something?
That's me.
Councillor McGregor, do you wish to move something?
I just moved the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded, Councillor Fell. Councillor McGregor has the call.
And I'd just like to thank the outgoing members of the committee, Julie Ankers, Jenny Day, Alex Gooding and Peter O'Neill for all the many hours they've been contributing to the cultural heritage of the Blue Mountains. Thank you for your service.
That's noted for the public record. Seconder wish to speak?
No.
Okay. Councillor Fell and McGregor, you might both go back on mute. Anyone else wish to speak? There's one item before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 17. Councillor Fell, did you pull this out? Or was it Councillor McGregor? You wish to move something, Councillor McGregor? You're on mute. You're still on mute. Thank you.
I just moved the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, that's seconded by Councillor Hollywood.
Councillor Hollywood, beg your pardon. And again, I'd like to thank the committee of the Campbell's Rhododendron Garden for all their work managing the site over 50 years, and I'd like to thank Tan Vo and Nicola Taylor for working with the committee so that they can take on the full management of the site. Thank you.
I also want to pass on my thanks to the Campbells, as well as to the council staff and to all of those residents who volunteered countless hours of their time to what is a real Blue Mountains gem. What's been put forward here by the officers and the community is really worthy, and I just want to, as Mayor, add my thanks to those just brought forward by Councillor McGregor. Councillor Hollywood is seconded. Did you wish to speak? No, you're fine. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Then there's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. CEO, I might ask you if you and I, in relation to the 3 items we've just dealt with, I think you and I might write some letters under my signature to people relating to items 17, 15 and 12, because community members have given great service to the Blue Mountains in relation to each of those items, and I think we might write a letter of thanks to them on Office of the Mayor letterhead. Thank you. Okay, item number 23 is a notice of motion moved by Councillor Brown. It's moved, Councillor Brown. Is it seconded? Councillor Schreiber. Councillor Brown has the call.
There was a very...
Councillor Hollywood, Councillor Brown has the call. I'll tend to you later. Councillor Brown.
I did put in a small, at the request of a constituent, I just put in a small amendment, which was to say we get a report on the potential for trialling at Katoomba and or Echo Point. So this is a report on 2 things.
We'll start the clock. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
The first thing is, and they are separate. The first thing is the recycling bins, which when you have a recycling and a landfill together, and they're really common now all over the country towns. They have been for years. So I think we need to find out 2 things. Well, really one thing. Are they actually working? Because I think we really must have them, unless it is a fact that all these recycling bins are really going to landfill. Like, that's the question I would have. But I would have thought that that was the case, that they would have sort of disappeared by now from public spaces. And I said, I've seen them, you've seen them in Penrith, Balmoral Beach, similar country towns. So I feel, and as a World Heritage city and a World Heritage, all that, it's very important that we are. And I mean, I see the bins on Sundays when I'm volunteering up there, and they are just overflowing. We've got red bins there as well now. I took some photos, and everything in the bin, one of the bins up the top near one of the cafes, it was all like paper. Good on them. They had Recyclex. They could have been composted paper cartons, and they were just filled, because that's all going to landfill, and they're actually nice little paper boxes. So that's the first thing that we do need to know about. The second thing is the solar compactor bins, which this week the Gazette ran a sort of, kills animals story. I'd already told them there was an incident with that, but the thing, that's really interesting technology, and there's 2 aspects to it. One is this compacting, which means you don't have the solar compacting, which according to the horror stories, is these possums got into it and were crushed. They actually changed the handles on the bin so they couldn't do that anymore. But that's with Scenic World. But Mount Tomah also have them. They've had them for 5 years. They love them. They did have 2 possums in 5 years get in. They've never fixed the handles, but the possums survived. But it's pretty traumatic and horrible. So that needs to be investigated, whether solar compacting bins are animal safe for larger animals. But they're great because they have these, they're all Wi-Fi, they're all Wi-Fi'd up. So they're telling that you get alerts, you get all the information about the waste and when the bin's full, 80% full. So both at Mount Tomah and at the Scenic World, they love them. The maintenance managers love them because it makes their collections much more efficient. And you can get those sensors with or without the solar compacting. Obviously, if we don't want to be compacting animals. But I think, as I said, it's these technologies that it's just so important now, waste management, and both the reducing of waste to landfill. What I'd just say too, the maintenance manager at Mount Tomah, he said it's, from a government point of view, it's very good because you can do a lot of reporting on your waste because you're getting so much data. And that, he said, that's useful in a government position. So that's just something for us to think about as well. But all that can be found out by doing a report. And I get that that they may not be able to do it straight away, but I just think, we can't just, because I got a lot of response on the social media, and the whole thing was around recycling. People are really bothered by the fact that we don't appear to be making an effort toward recycling. So if we think it's possible, and that we can actually have recycling bins and they're not filled with the wrong stuff, that's what we have to find out. Then I think we should at least be doing that. But get a report, and if it looks like it's something worth trying, we could try it in Katoomba Town Centre and or Echo Point, where I'm also told there's an overflowing bin issue that happens. Because certainly, even with the downturn and even with extra bins in Katoomba Street at the moment, the plastic ones, which don't look good,
1 minute.
still overflowing. So anyway, as I said, it's just a report when the staff can do it, and it will tell us what does work or might work and what might be worth trying. Thank you.
Does the seconder wish to speak? No?
Just quickly, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen the ones at Scenic World working, how good they are and what they do for the area. And if we need to get more information, we could go to Scenic World and find out from them how good they are and the use of them. So I'm quite happy to support this, Mr Mayor, so that we can look to see what we can do about our recycling and so forth. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Schreiber. And I note a former Scenic World employee has commented today, but say no further. Councillor Schreiber, if you could mute, please. Councillor Hollywood, you have an amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. And fellow councillors, I hope you can see and have
I'll
read.
just ask you to explain your amendment and then I'll let you speak.
Yes, so it has been emailed through, and
Just give us an overview very quickly.
And the purpose of the amendment is to flesh it out and to look at, be more specific about some of the strengths and drawbacks of the solar compactor bins in particular.
And were you seeking a briefing or a report with the amendment?
And I'm seeking a briefing because I believe that it's
Is
already...
the amendment, thank you, Councillor Hollywood, that's sufficient explanation. Is there a seconder to...
Well, I'll take that on board. I'll take that on board. I'm fine with that. I don't mind.
You take on all elements of the amendment, Councillor Brown?
Well, I mean,
just a yes or no, please.
I'm looking for it because I'm happy for it to be. I mean, I think it's not bad to be a report, but I don't mind if it's a briefing because it makes.
Councillor Brown, I just need a yes or no. It's quite an extensive amendment.
Well, can Councillor Hollywood please read it out for me then?
Yeah, I'm chairing the
seeing
meeting.
it now. Yep.
I had wanted to avoid that. So, Councillor Brown, I'm going to give you a moment just to scan it. It's always good to review these before the meeting, and if you could go on mute, we'll wait.
Yeah, no, that's all. That's all right. The receiver report on Charlie. That was. No,
Councillor Brown, Councillor Brown, can you just give us a yes or no?
Can I ask for Councillor Hollywood just to read it out? That would help me.
Yes, all right. And I will advise councillors, these things are sent before the meeting. Please read them. Councillor Brown, could you please go on mute? Thank you. Councillor Hollywood, I will ask you to read this out, even though councillors have had it for some time.
I'm going to spare the fellow councillors reading out the whole of points A, B and C because there's no change. In D, I'm just adding the word claim to the, so D, it says the advance of technology such as solar compactor bins that claim to reduce. Because if you look on the net.
Councillor Hollywood, I'm not wanting an explanation. Can councillors please just...
and then I'll just read out.
Councillor Hollywood, please wait a second, I'm speaking. Councillors, you all know how council meetings work. You get to speak if you're taking a point of order or if I give you the call. If I ask a councillor to read out a motion, that's all I want. Members of the community are watching tonight. These meetings have to run smoothly. Councillor Hollywood, I'm asking you to simply read your changes without the commentary. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Brown, if you could go on mute, please.
Point E, the reported drawbacks of the solar compactor bins, including high costs of initial capital investment, opportunity costs, redirection from existing priorities and resources, maintenance and labour costs. Challenges of maintaining contamination, managing contamination of the recycling waste stream in public spaces, leading to the need to hand sort after collection and the impacts on wildlife. Point 2 remains the same, just an added phrase, including the benefits and drawbacks of the solar powered waste compactors. And then a final point 3, that this briefing refers to Council's broader strategic priorities for better waste management across the city, including other options for innovation, such as the Recycling Bins initiative at Hazelbrook, managed by the Hazelbrook Association, which was installed with a grant from the Environmental Protection Authority about 3 years ago.
I'll take
Thank
it
you,
all
Councillor
on.
Hollywood.
Yep, good. I'll take it all on. It's good.
Taken on board. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you, Councillor Brown. You can go back on mute. Councillor Hollywood, did you wish to speak or are you content?
I will just make a few points.
Yes,
Thank
you can. Thank you.
Um,
And thank you for that amendment. Thank you for taking it on board, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hollywood has the call and we'll start the clock.
Thank you. Look, I think one of these things with this motion and indeed the report that that Councillor Brown has brought forward, when you look at it at face value, it looks absolutely commendable in the sense that, you know, who is going to argue against recycling, who's going to argue against the 3 R's of reduce, recycle and reuse. No one is going to argue over that. We all support that. It's actually part of Council's strategic priorities. The challenge, I think, is when we start looking at how do we maintain it and what are the actual costs of these bins and do they actually work? So I was contacted by a large local area as well, similar to Kerry Brown's contact, Councillor Brown's contact.
Thank you.
However, the reports that I got were really disturbing, that in fact these bins don't work. They're very difficult to manage. They're extremely costly. And the way that the recycling bins actually work, the 80% compaction, it requires cameras in there, doesn't always fully read whether they are actually being compacted to the 80% or not. And often there's significant contamination. So the message that I was getting, and this was prior to the Gazette article today, was that this council needs to really fully investigate this proposal. We need to be looking, and I would say this as a councillor, we need to be looking at the strategic approach. We've actually proposed a solution before we've actually fully scoped out the problem. And we've got to remember this, what's been put forward here is very Katoomba centric. We've got 27 towns and villages. People are using bins across the Blue Mountains. We've also got an increasing kind of movement around just litter in general and concerns around litter in the bush, litter on the roads, litter on the highway. So to me, we need to take a step back and actually have a look at what's the priority and how do we get the biggest bang for our buck with our scarce resources. So that's what I'm hearing from the community, that there was some pushback around whether this was actually the right solution for the issues of waste management in not just Katoomba, but across the Blue Mountains. So that's why I've moved the amendment. I'm very happy that Councillor Brown has taken it on board. And I look forward to the briefing and that we hasten slowly and that we also do proper consultation with other councils, which I know I didn't put that in the amendment because I know that our staff do that anyway as a matter of course. So I don't really want to be telling people how to do their jobs.
Before I take Councillor Hoare, can I just thank Councillors Hollywood and Brown? You have both got different perspectives on this issue, and yet you've both managed to come forward in this chamber with a resolution you can both agree to. And I think that's worthy of note. And I want to thank both of you for doing that. It's a very constructive approach to the chamber and it gives us an opportunity to move forward on an issue, even if there's a different view. Councillor Hollywood, had you finished or did I inadvertently interrupt you?
I'm not sure that you interrupted me. I think I probably can say that I have concluded. Thank you.
I'll ask you to mute then, and thank you. And to both councillors, my thanks. Councillor Hoare, and then Councillor van der Klee. Councillor Hoare has the call.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, although I'm sure this motion is well intended, and I do thank Councillor Hollywood for the amendments that she's raised to it, I just wish to speak very briefly to raise my concerns that the compacting of recyclable waste might, in some small but who knows, perhaps significant way, serve to undermine the return and earn scheme. By ruining or preventing those drink bottles from being able to be recycled. I think one of the advantages of the more low tech community-driven schemes, such as the Hazelbrook Association, to which Councillor Hollywood referred, is that they are able to derive some small but significant revenue stream from utilising the return and earn scheme such as it is. So, I mean, look, I could go on a long, long talk about the greater importance of a circular economy and preventing waste from getting into our environment and into our economy, but I'll leave my remarks there.
Councillor Hoare, I'm just trying to, for the purposes of taking the debate further, was that a speech against?
No. It's more a question for the staff. That
all right, thank you.
It would be good to have the.
Thank you. That's all I needed, Councillor Hoare. I just needed a yes or no. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor has the call. Councillor Hoare, if you could go on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I am supporting this motion. I'd like to thank Councillor Hollywood and Councillor Brown on this particular issue. But I go back a number of years ago when we decided to replace all the garbage bins in Katoomba, and then they're not that old. And the cost of replacing garbage bins in Katoomba Street ran to several $100,000. I can remember it very much. But the reason I'm supporting this is because I think we need to look not only at those sort of garbage bins, but Mr. Mayor, you and I catch the train from time to time, and when you get onto some of the railway stations, especially in the city, they've got garbage bins, and they are designed. They're not compactors, but they are designed to take recycled material. But that's only part of the problem. I think where we're going to get unstuck is if you put these in, it's how we're going to collect it. How are those services, and what are the costs of those services to do that? We, as a council, and I think we've done that over many, many years. I happen to disagree with Councillor Brown. We, as a council, have done a marvellous job in recycling. I remember when I first got on the council, we only had those little black bins where we put things in. We've now doing over 60% of our waste is recycling. That wasn't the case 20 years ago. So this council has done a tremendous job. I think we need to look at it in a very broad picture, not only those sort of bins, but if there is another alternative where we have dual bins, where we put recycling in and that, but we've also got to look at how we manage the waste, pick up the recycling material. As we've got at the present moment, we've got contractors who do the household delivery. Do we have to get another contractor to do all of those recycling bins in the town centres? And like Councillor Hollywood said, we've got 26 towns and villages that need to be looked after. And we can't just do it in one town, we've got to do it in all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderklay. I'll ask you to go on mute. Any further speakers? Councillor McGregor. I will note that while there's a divergence of views in the room, no one has spoken against the motion, and the motion itself calls for a briefing. So at this stage, there's no opposition to the briefing or the content of the motion. Councillor McGregor has the call, and we'll start the clock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I look forward to the briefing when many of the questions that have been raised will be answered by people expert and in possession of the facts. But I'd note one of the bigger problems that we've got with waste is food and garden organics, and that appears to be really insoluble. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. I'll ask you to go on mute, and I thank you for your contribution. Are there any other speakers? All right. Again, I want to record my thanks to Councillors Brown and Hollywood. There were a divergence of views in the room, and the conduct of these two councillors has brought the council together. The item has not been spoken against, so I'm now going to put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. And again, my thanks to those two councillors. The executive officer or the CEO, I'll look to either. Do we have any matters of urgency?
Not that I'm aware
No,
of.
Mr. Mayor.
None? All right.
None received.
Executive officer, could you confirm to me that in rather record time that brings us to the end of business?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
There's nothing further as far as I'm aware.
I have a motion to close the meeting. It's moved the Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Fernanda. No one wishes to speak on adjournment. I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. I want to thank all of the councillors for their conduct tonight and also wish you all a great 2021. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right, Mr. Mayor.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Toby. We can finish the meeting now.
Good night, all.
You just know what to do. Go home. Such a shock.